Welcome back to Families in Action on your local hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen. We have Jerry Bruce. He's my co-host.
Hi, Cary.
Hey, Captain Johnson, Linda Davis, and Shirley from the Sheriff's Department.
We're glad to be here. Thank you.
Yes. We are. Before we went on break, when we were touching on your new program that you've got going on right now in partnership with everybody.
Yep, absolutely. Partnership with everybody. That's right. The Divert program.
The Divert program. For somebody that just joined, just throw it at them at one more time.
All right. Well, let me tell you what it is. It's Domestic Intervention Violence Education Resource Team. All right. So we're dealing with lots of things here, not just domestic violence, but things that lead up to it. Maybe some mental illness, maybe some, maybe drug or substance abuse issues, batters intervention, that's where Emerge from Anger's on there, because we only do the victims over at the Domestic Violence Center, and so actually Emerge from Anger does the batters intervention program. So the cool thing about this whole Divert piece is there's a website, a Divert website, that actually is a toolbox for the community. Every single one of the agencies that Captain Johnson mentioned, like the city district attorney, the Sheriff's Department, mental health, College of the Canyons, Child and Family Center, Strength United, all of these have a piece on the website which gives you whatever it is that you need, ways in which to get it. Every event that we have that would help somebody understand educationally what's going on with the topics that we are referring to actually can go to that website and look that up. So it's a really cool website that's there.
And for your information, I'll go ahead and give you the website really quickly. Kudos to Gail Morgan with the City of Santa Clarita and her team. Specifically, Frankie Rios was responsible for putting this together. What we found is obviously when we're looking at all of this data and looking at all the information, everybody has, and they've been doing quality work towards this issue. But what we found is there was really no centralized location to find these partners, and so kudos to the city for putting this together. So you can find it at santa-clarita.com/divert, D-I-V-E-R-T. Once again, santa-clarita.com/divert, and you'll get all the resources that you need to deal with this issue.
Get your pens out. We'll say it again before we close. So why divert? What happened? Where did it come from?
Well, it came from the Sheriff's Department and the city kind of reaching out to all these agencies saying, hey, we have a problem. Mm-hmm. We want to also deal with this problem, which for all of us. I
have to say, that's the beauty of Santa Clarita.
Yeah, well, I do think,
it really is that we look at things that are happening.
But I do give Captain Johnson and the Sheriff's Department a lot of credit for this, because I know when we did this thing called a Red Dress Project, where we had 6 red dresses that went to 16 different locations throughout the city to represent those women that had been killed by domestic violence. And there was an article that was written where I felt, I actually tell you, it brought me to tears when I read it, because I felt like it was the first time people were actually admitting what was really going on, and the fact that we are now doing something about it, and we're trying to educate people, and we're trying to make the community safe. We're trying not to look the other way. Mm-hmm. We're trying, not have it be kind of like we don't want to scare people. We kind of want to let people know these things are really happening in our community, and there's nothing to be ashamed of about it.
Right, and we don't want to scare people, but
the numbers are staggering. One in 3 women report being abused in relationships sometime in their life. Yeah. That's in this country, not just this county.
All right. Well, I think even last night, I know Lady Gaga did something on the Oscars, okay? And it was a very, very moving, you don't know what it's like until it happens to you. Mm-hmm. And the problem in our society really is that people think it is a family problem. It's not a family problem. It's a community problem. Right. These kids it's a learned behavior. Kids see it at home. They don't know any different, and then they're going to repeat it, and they're going to actually, in schools, there's ways in which you can kind of help a child get through that. So there's a lot of work that we still need to do, especially in elementary schools, working with counselors, having people understand what these children have gone through, and what these children, because another staggering statistic is that 15 million children a year witness domestic violence.
Absolutely. And that's what we're dealing with a lot of our families and our residentials and things like that. children that have witnessed this, observed it, been a part of it, their experiences of this trauma themselves. So, the whole focus is treating the trauma now,
Right.
perceived trauma even,
Right.
not even experienced trauma. And we work with the adults as well, but a lot of the girls become the victims of these relationships,
Right.
and they come out of our facility. We have to address that while they're there with us.
It's also
Absolutely.
a conversation that you have. We always tell people, hey, talk to your kids about drugs and violence. My thing is talk to your kids about drugs, sex, violence, dating, and everything. It all needs to be part of a conversation that we're dating violence. These are things that we have to teach our kids when they're young. What's okay, what's not.
In the schools now, in the high schools, we are going in now and doing a thing called In Touch with Teens, which
Right.
is an evidence-based program that does meet the qualifications for the core health component so that we can go in and teach in the health classes.
Right. Good.
So we're doing that at Saugus.
I know that was a concern.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So we have been able to get in. That was a concern because you've
Yes.
gotten into the school so effectively. We were trying to figure out how we could.
Well,
and
whenever
now,
we're there, come with us.
no, I know. But now we're doing okay.
I think it's all part of it.
It's all part. We
It
can
all
share all.
meshes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to give kudos to Joan Ashcroft and her crew at the Child and Family Center because they do a tremendous amount of work with the kids and the families as well. And they're in the schools. They're partnering
Right.
with the schools to get some of the same things that Linda's talking about because obviously, you need to reach in to get to those
Right.
kids early or you're going to have that
Yes.
process repeating itself.
It's got to start young.
And the other thing is, when we're talking about education too, and on April the 12th, we're holding us, and it's sponsored by the Sheriff's Department, Child and Family, and also the city. And we are doing something called become an upstander, not a bystander. And that whole idea of if you see something happening, being able to report it, being able to, if you hear something happening in your apartment building, be able to call. And there is a number that people can call that's actually anonymous. It's a Crime Stopper number. It's a 800-222-8477.
Isn't that Shirley's cell phone?
No, it is not Shirley's
I'm just
cell phone.
Yeah, he
No.
white out.
No. But I mean, it also teaches you what the 3 Ds are around how you can sort of step in to be direct if something doesn't seem right, delegate, get someone else to help, and distract, cause a distraction. But I have something interesting, and I have to ask you because I don't really know. We were doing our 40-hour training yesterday, and we talk a lot about this when we're training new advocates,
Right.
is that stand up against violence, right? So I'm getting a bagel over at Western Bagel yesterday, and I kind of see this couple, and they're arguing in the car, and then they get out, and they go in, and they do something, and then they're walking back to the car, and she like wallops him with her pocketbook, and they get in the car, and they are kind of going at each other like face to face, and I'm thinking to myself, what could I do here? I mean, I'm not going to get out and talk to them. You don't want to get out and get in danger, and plus I wouldn't. It's there at that moment in time I'm thinking, but could I ever call
Absolutely.
with the license plate number and say, go do a well visit or whatever?
You don't have to call to say do a well visit at the license plate. Basically, those type of calls come in all the time.
Okay.
It's part of what you're talking about. If you observe something, you pick up the phone and you call. If it's something that's urgent, call 911. If it's not, call the station's business line at 661-255-1121. Let them know exactly what you're observing, and they'll basically send a deputy out there to do an investigation. Who knows? That little call that you're going to make right there could basically be the call to save someone's life.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's also very dangerous to intervene.
Right,
I
but
remember when I
yeah.
was a kid.
Yeah.
We were in New York. I was driving. I probably was 4 years old, and I still remember it. There was some guy beating up his wife, and my father got out of the car, and she stabbed him. She stabbed my dad in the arm because he was
Well,
trying to protect her.
that's what we're
That goes
talking
back to
about.
what we're talking
Yeah.
about in
Exactly.
terms of it being a dangerous call. It's
Yeah.
an emotionally driven event, and even when law enforcement officers get there, we get there and we try and intervene. You're constantly telling and training the officers to make sure that you're constantly watching your
Yes.
back, because once the deputies or officers go to take some type of enforcement action, oftentimes the other person will turn on the law enforcement officers who are there just to help and resolve the situation. So I totally understand what you're talking
And
about.
you
in
got
terms
all
your
kinds of
father.
insecurities and egos going all over the place at that time.
I give an example that I saw somebody abusing a woman in the parking lot over at Savia one time, and we had just called the sheriffs to let them know that for them to come, and all I did was yell over, "Hey, I just called the sheriff. scarves, and the guy just took off. And again, it's not always. What I saw yesterday with the woman was a little bit more of an aggressor than I don't know the history, but that's what I saw.
We have men that
1 in 33 men.
Absolutely.
Where the men are the victims now.
Absolutely. 1 in 30. And 1 in 6 men will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime, and probably by other men.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's a really, really tough, startling, I think, statistic as well.
Right. So, but that brings us to another point. I mean, we know domestic violence, women come, but men can go there too.
Now we've opened our shelter up to men victims. Okay, so we have male victims that are coming to our shelter. Now on our wish list that we have on our website, we are asking for men's clothes.
The reason I brought that up, and I wanted to hear more from you, but it's hard for a woman to walk into a shelter or to a clinic and say, "Hey, help." I think it might be a little harder for a man.
Yeah.
So that's why I want you to talk about that.
Yeah. So, but I do know, but a victim is a victim, and they need to go, and a lot of times they have children with them too, because they're leaving a really tough situation. So they might be coming just like a woman does with her children, and it's because we see more families than we do single people at our shelter. And now, even in our outreach center, when men come, we used to have a separate men's group, on Tuesday nights we'd hold a men's group. Now the men and the women are together. And it's actually really been positive, because a victim of domestic violence is a victim of domestic violence. And so they can share experiences, strengths, and hopes, and really be able to work together. And so we have 2 that have just started with us, and they come every week. There's been no kind of complaints. We had kind of done this thing where we decided to start it in January. So we had done like a little prep with our women, telling them that was going to happen, so that they knew, and kind of got their fears out first. And then basically people are very welcome, because if you talk about what a victim is, this person's going through the exact same thing that you were going through, only his abuser was a woman.
And when people share feelings, people just feel closer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They do.
Yes.
They do. And they don't get stuck on the fact of what his gender is. And there was a lot of times actually out there where there was no place for men to go. That was a really, really big deal. So a lot of our funders now are saying, if you want this money, you've got to open yourselves up to be able to do this.
Good.
Yeah, it really is good. It really is good. So for those people that may be saying, because I know when I say something to like a person who maybe had been in the history of the domestic violence center, years ago, because we're 33 years old. So there's a lot of people in this community, thank you, that have helped us.
You don't look that old.
Oh, I am that old.
At least a few years younger than that.
Thank you.
Don't she?
Hey, somebody just put a cake out on my Facebook page with like a 65 candle in there. Okay,
they were just playing that.
Yeah, they were just playing. It was a little bit older though. But anyway, so when I say to them that men can come, they go, "Are you kidding? Men can come?" But we've got to shift the paradigm. We have to not have that feeling that men are the enemy, and that's one of the things that I tried to do when I first came into my agency, was the fact that it's a 50-50 relationship. I think both are victims. I don't care what anyone says, because nobody wants to have that kind of relationship in their life. Everybody would love to be able to have a good relationship, to have a relationship where they feel cared for and nurtured. And so both parties are coming from something that they grew up with and knew as normal when it's not normal. So we don't bash men. We don't feel like, and I actually got that from going to Emerge from Anger one time and talking to one of the counselors out there who said to me, "Yeah, we tell our men not to find women like that anymore." And I thought, gee, that's the same thing we're saying over at our place. So maybe we got to figure this out and kind of, realize that it's both parties. Not that we serve the batterer, because we don't provide services. That's a totally different kind of training.
Right.
And so we only serve the victims and the survivors. But I think that and I kind of feel like they probably can't get back together again as a couple, but they can have healthy relationships with other people once they've kind of gone through everything they need to go through. Right. But everybody's got to want to do the work. Yes. And it's painful work, because it's looking at your childhood, which a lot of people don't want to do, because that was very painful, the place where you first had those trust issues or attachment issues are happening. And that's a really, really tough one for them to look at, because the parents have kind of betrayed what a parent's supposed to do,
Yep.
So it's sad. It's sad. But the one thing about this is we are seeing more and more people coming into our office. Like last month, we had 31 new clients. A lot of times we run between 19 and 26, and we had like 31 last time, and our hotline calls are up as well, about 50%.
And just to remind people, we had 8 people lose their lives here because of domestic violence last year. That's pretty heavy.
It is.
It is.
So
And that
we don't
number-
want to take this lightly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Back to our conversation a few minutes ago, we were talking about how we should start early with our children and
Yes.
talking to them about what defines a healthy relationship. And February was Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, and one of the resources that we were giving parents, it's called teachearly.org. I'm not sure, have you heard of that
I have
before?
not heard of that.
And it has conversation starters and tips for talking to boys about healthy relationships and respect for women. So that's a great resource. Talk to them when they're young.
And that is so important too. It's like I was saying earlier, we got to teach our kids not just about drugs and sex, but about relationships, about dating, about appropriate dating, about how to be angry, how not to feel so insecure. There's so much stuff out there that they're not there yet. And when kids are 13, 14, 15 and they're into this relationship and they say, I'm in love, and parents say, oh, you're just infatuated. No, they're in love.
They're in love.
Intensified love, because they don't know how to deal with their feelings.
Right.
So there's so much insecurities.
They
and
weren't taught any emotional boundaries, or the
Well-
emotional boundaries they have in their home are so skewed or
Right.
thrown off because of the parents' history as well.
Right. So there's so much going on there that these are any of that kind of stuff. What's that again? Say that website again so people can.
The website is teachearly.org, O-R-G. And if you're on Twitter, it's #teachearly.
#TeachEarly. Very cool. This is Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen, along with my co-host Jerry Bruce. And wow, what a great show, you guys. I mean,
thank you.
I mean, the topic is, it's really sad that I got to say what a great show when a topic is so heavy.
Right.
But what a great show, because I really believe knowledge is power, and we're giving a lot of knowledge out and a lot of resources today.
Yeah.
And what you are doing, Linda Davis, and the Sheriff's Department is just incredible stuff. It's going to make a difference.
Yeah, well, we're already seeing a difference in the stats ourselves,
We are.
so we are seeing a difference, and we're kind of reporting with each other kind of what we're seeing, amount of hours that are going in and the amount of increases in, people getting the information that they need that may not have gotten the information. So that's been really a great thing. And so we see the difference already.
How underreported is this, do you believe?
You know what? I think there's a significant amount of underreporting that's going on. It's always been something, and for years, where people just didn't really talk about it because there were things going on inside the home. It's one of those issues. It's a tough issue to get in and try and tackle as well, too, because people just don't want to talk about it. But the beauty of this city and this department and the 5th District and the whole relationship we have with the partners up here in the Santa Clarita Valley, we don't hide from issues. When we look into and find some type of trend that we can address, we bring all the partners together, just like we did back in the middle of 2015 when we saw this issue on the rise, figured out all the components that we needed, talked about this issue on a regular basis, and came up with all of this that we're talking about with the Divert program, the educational component that Linda's doing, and the partnership that we started with the Domestic Violence Advocate Riding with Deputies beginning in January. We're getting feedback from the advocates and the deputies for this, and we're going to tweak the program, but we're definitely proud of what we're doing, and Linda's already seen an increase in the number of referrals as a result of this program.
It makes it a little softer, a little easier for somebody to come to you.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It's like when they connect with somebody, they're not walking into that unknown fear as bad.
Absolutely. They know someone.
It's the same thing with us. We have residentials, right? When people leave rehabs, they have about a 5% chance of making it in their first year. If they go to the intensive outpatient, they have a 75% chance, but there's that fear. So I have to now send outpatient counselors to meet them before they leave. Then they come. So it's that connection.
Yeah, it is that connection. It's the relationship they have with, like, the agency itself and the people in the agency.
Exactly.
And we that's what it is. It becomes, and law enforcement has their job to do, and then we have our job to do. And so everybody's got, and sometimes I think it can get misrepresented because, the penal code is about, more or less a physical abuse and not so much about the emotional or whatever. And sometimes when they're called, it may be because they're they're fearful for their life because they're being threatened.
Right.
It's not always physical.
Yeah, and most people don't realize that the policies and things for the sheriff's department are pretty specific.
Absolutely.
Even if it's not a criminal act, deputies are required to take a report on a domestic violence non-criminal. It's called a domestic violence non-criminal. If it's a criminal act, they're required to take a report and determine who the primary aggressor is and take that person to jail as well. The good thing about this is
even if somebody else doesn't press charges these days, right?
That is correct.
Absolutely,
We're not concerned about that. We have the district attorney on board with this as well, and we're trying to get the victims out of that situation. Obviously, it's not okay to assault anyone, especially someone male assaulting a female. It's not okay to do that on a domestic violence, and so we're going to make those arrests. Work with the DA's office to get the suspects prosecuted and in treatment programs, because there are a lot of programs that the courts can mandate, refer that person to, so that they can get the help that they need and hopefully change their life.
They're very cool.
Yeah,
Linda,
it's good stuff.
What do you want people to know?
Well, I want people to know that we have a hotline number. So if they are at, if they're worried about it, they're not sure what's going on, or if they're afraid and they need to get to shelter, they can call 661-259-4357. It's 661-259-4357. And that particular, actually, there's an advocate, it's 24/7, that will help them and give them resources that they need, or direct them to call the sheriffs if they're in danger. I mean, the first question we always ask is, are you safe? If they're not safe, then we make sure that they call 911 and get the help they need. And usually they're looking for shelter, or they're looking for other resources that we might be able to provide at the Outreach Center. And the Outreach Center number is 661-259-8175. So 661-259-8175. And then if people are interested, I mean, any community agency that's listening, or a women's group or whatever, we do come out and do something called a Woman's Way to the Law, where we explain the sort of what a emergency protective order is, what a temporary restraining order is, what a regular order is afterwards, and so that they would then know what the consequences would be for their spouse or for their boyfriend, so that it's not that daunting thing, and they understand how it protects them. And that's really what we want, because that's really where we feel there's some ignorance in our community, and women don't understand that. And then on April 12th, we have that Upstander Bystander happening at Savia at 6 o'clock.
Whoa.
Upstander Bystander, which is a way in which people can understand how to help in the community when they see a domestic violence situation happening, where to call, how to maybe distract somebody from what's going on, how to really be able to make our community safer, and to understand that domestic violence is not a family issue, that it is a community issue. So that's going to be a training that we're doing on April 12th at Savia.
Very good. Captain Johnson.
Sure. I want to close by basically thanking you, Cary and Jerry, for putting this on, thanking KHTS for always being the venue to allow us to talk about these issues, Linda for coming here and being a partner in this. A lot of times we talk about domestic violence, and there are people that are really afraid to get involved. I want to make sure that it's clear that you can call and you can remain anonymous, even just calling the 911 or calling the business line with the sheriff's department. But if you're really concerned about that, Crime Stoppers is a great program for you to remain anonymous, and we'll get the information and get it out there. You can report that by dialing 800-222-8477, or you can text TIP LA regarding whatever crime you're reporting, and you can remain anonymous. TIP LA, yes. And you can type in whatever the tip that you have. So we're really happy with this partnership that we have. I do want to end by also giving you the website again really quickly for the Divert program, and that's santa-clarita.com/divert. santa-clarita.com/divert. Thanks again for giving us the opportunity to talk about this issue.
Very good. And Shirley, it's good to see you. And
nice to see you
I
too.
imagine we're going to see a lot of you in your new position up here in Santa Clarita. That's very cool.
Oh, the other thing too is Divert. If you're on Facebook, they're on Facebook now too.
Divert. So how would they find it? Just type in Divert.
Diverse Santa Clarita.
You got it. Hey, well, thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Till next Monday.